Boys_22.
I'm Jeff Bell at For Whom J Bell Tolls.
And I'm Christian Williams at C Williams NFL, and this is the Devy Royale.
I do this day in and day out, all night long. Yeah. This is all I think about. This is all I care about. Y'all all I care about. Let's go, man, it's here. We televised, so you know we gotta show out. Yeah. They talking junk, so you know we gotta put them to sleep. Yeah. Let's go, man. Let's go. Don't play. We do this every day. We work too hard, day in and day like I told y'all. They don't do what we do. They don't do what we do. They never done what we did.
Off to the races. Can they catch him? No, they can't. Touchdown.
Welcome to another episode of the Devy Royale, a member for the Going for Two family. Today on the show, we're covering spring games, our top 5 tight ends of the 2022 class, which is not exciting. Picking more NBA playoff games and discussing our undervalued and overvalued Devy assets right now. And we're going to go over the transfer portal. But before that, Jeff's got a bunch of punishments that he has to do because he's lost so many games and he's just not very good at the punishment, the wheel of death. So, Jeff, why don't you go ahead and start and tell us what you're doing and the punishments you got going on?
So right now I'm making myself a coffee without coffee. So I poured some creamer and some sugar into a cup. So I'm going to drink that first to start out with. So, it's great air while I'm drinking something. So if you guys want to talk about something.
Sure. Yeah, sure. We can talk.
Actually, that's probably not punishment. That was probably delicious. If people just drink creamer and sugar, just go with it because that was kind of good. I'll do that again.
That's going to be Jeff's new morning ritual.
All right. Morning ritual is just pound some creamer and sugar. All right. So I'm going to do a dance now for my good friend, Mr. Troy King. He's been trying to make this happen, the Thirsty Thursday dance. So, I watched the video and I tried to figure it out. And So it's Thirsty Thursday. It's Thirsty Thursday. We just do a little bit of this and a little bit of this. Yeah. And then he's doing like these kind of moves. And then he does like this move. And then there's some sort of like this swinging. So that's another punishment. And I'm going to work on eating a package of hot chocolate mix without any water or anything. So it's going to be another good thing to do. So if you guys want to, I got a spoon for this one. So if we want to move on to the next thing, and I've got hot chocolate mix all over myself now. So this is just a fantastic start to this show. Don't lose the bucket of. I've gotten so unlucky on these bucket of death things because I lost the SDS championship game, and that was like a final score at the end of the game that swung that game. I lost the Spurs game the other night, and that was like a single digit close loss. So I've gotten just these punishments stacked up, so I got to do this. But this is just fantastic. So way to start a show. But if you guys want to talk about transfer news or anything else you want to talk about, go ahead.
Yeah. So for the first part of the show, we're going to talk about some transfer chaos. Not as many transfers this week, or as we've kind of seen. Cameron Buckley, Texas A&M. He went to Indiana. He's a 3-star. Marquise Spiker, the guy, the picture we just saw, if you're watching this on there, Washington to Nevada. He's a 4-star wide receiver. And actually, I think that is some news. 5 Washington wide receivers have transferred from that program. Poor Jeff's dying over here. And then we got Theo Howard, former Oklahoma UCLA guy, to Utah. So we see some transfers there, some wide receiver guys. To be honest with you, I didn't know a lot of these guys until I looked them up and kind of read them. I do know who Spiker is, who went to Nevada. But what do you make of, Christian, all these guys leaving Washington's program?
It's not great. It's not great, especially since there are 2 Devy quarterbacks that you should have some interest in, and Heward and who's their incoming freshman. I excuse my language. I forgot his name, but there are some assets there where you're kind of concerned now that that's definitely not a a team that's loaded with weapons, right? So we'll talk about tight ends later. Your boy, Cade should see, a 50% target share at this point. So it's not great for that program. It's not a good look. I do want to touch on Theo Howard going to Utah because we'll talk about them here shortly. They need weapons, right? So they absolutely are going to welcome him with open arms. I'll talk about what I saw kind of out of that wide receiver group in that spring game. And then I don't have too much to say about Buckley other than that's a nice little addition to that offense. Indiana, again, we keep talking about this. Indiana should be second best team in the Big Ten, in my opinion. So,
yeah, I don't know if Jeff's good. Jeff, you good? You want to talk about some of these transfers over here?
Don't eat a packet of dry hot chocolate. As much as the first thing was not really a punishment, it's kind of delicious. Eating a package of dry Swiss Miss was not fantastic. But anyways, the thing that interests me the most is seeing where these guys are going. We talk about Indiana in the Big Ten potentially being the second best program there. Nevada adding another weapon for our favorite guy of the program, Carson Strong. And then Theo Howard, you touched on it too. We're going to talk about Utah in the spring game, them just loading up weapons to be able to, we'll talk about it when we get there. I just think it's going to be an interesting story this year to watch Utah.
Yeah, that's a good point about Nevada. With Carson Strong there, with Turner there, Cooks there, Dubois got all those guys there. They could have one of the best offenses in college football. And that's only going to help them, if going forward. And this is a Carson Strong show. We endorse Carson Strong. We were there first, so all you all-outs coming out here now, just so you know. But we're going to go to the spring football games now. And like we were talking about Utah, Miami, and FSU. So we're going to be looking at those three. What kind of stood out to us? What are some spring football kind of things there? We're going to go to Utah first. And I just want to give a real quick shout-out to RIP to Ty Jordan. I actually saw some of his tape this last week. And, God, he was so damn good. I really wish that he was there on that Utah team. But what did you see in that Utah team there, Christian?
Not a lot of great things. My main takeaway is that Charlie Brewer looked really, really good. 15 for 15, 151. And the box score had 2 touchdowns. I don't recall the second one after watching it, but I think he threw for 2, which is good news. The part that kind of sucks is they kept it very, very simple for him. A lot of his passes were either behind the line of scrimmage or very, very shallow depth. He did have a couple nice throws downfield, but overall, you can see what they're going to ask from him. Now, is that his fault? Probably not, because like I just talked about, their weapons are just not good. Solomon Ennis, 4 for 44. Devon Veal, I think, Veal. I don't know how to say his name. I'm sorry. That's always going to be a running theme. I suck at names. But he went 4 for 66. There's not much to get excited about on that Utah team, in my opinion. And I know some people are drafting Jaquindon Jackson fairly highly. He didn't look good, in my opinion. I think this is definitely Brewer's team. And I think they could have a nice offense if they keep it simple. My note for Brewer, too, was he's what we wanted Brock Purdy to be. So he's a good player, but Brock Purdy isn't. So, Jeff, what did you think?
Yeah, Brewer strikes me. He's that classic college undersized quarterback. He can kind of run around. He's pretty accurate. He's a gutty guy that he's going to leave it all out there. And I think that's going to be a theme for Utah this year. I think they're really going to be playing for Ty Jordan. I just think it's, we saw them almost in the college football playoff. They were right there at the end in the 2019 season, the last time we had a real season. And I think that's going to be the type of thing that bonds this team together. They've got Brewer coming in, a quarterback from elsewhere, kind of coming in to kind of lend that veteran hand. Brant Quith, is it Brant Quith? Is that how we say his name? The tight end.
Tight end, yes.
Yeah, so this is obviously a tight end episode. I did on Devy Debate. I want to give him a shout out, Mr. Brenning over there on Devy Debate on their last episode. They kind of ran through a handful of players, and he talked about him. So he's a guy that should be on the Devy radar. We're desperate for tight end production at the college level, so he could step up and have a big role in this offense without the other options there. I just drafted Chris Curry in C2C. I don't know if that was necessarily wise. He's an LSU transfer that I don't know that he's necessarily going to be the starting running back there, but a 4-4 star. But again, I just think the theme of this team is going to be pulling together for Ty Jordan and just kind of win it for him. And so I do think they're going to be good in a competitive Big 12.
Yeah, I think for me, it's their defense is always going to kind of step up. Can that offense kind of do anything in there? I don't know. They're okay. This game was kind of whatever to me. They don't have a lot of Devy assets, if you know what I mean. Like, they don't really have guys that I expect really to – even in C2C, there's not really anybody out there. I guess Charlie Brewer, he's okay. He turns the ball over a lot, and he makes some bad throws and bad decisions. But there's really no one that actually stood out to me. Like, there's not someone that pops. But Coith or Cuth or whatever the hell you call him, sorry, the Utah tight end, I like him, but he's severely undersized. I think he's like 6'2", 6'3"-ish. Like, he's in that range. Like, is he really a tight end? Is he kind of there? So that's kind of what I see from there. All right, Miami had a pretty fun spring game. They're actually building something down there in Miami. Maybe is the U back? That's kind of the question. Jeff, what do you think?
Jake Garcia looked fantastic. Jake Garcia is the future, and I think we're all we're hoping that we could see that future maybe sooner than what we will. De'Aaron King is going to be the starting quarterback there, but in the spring game, he was out. He's still recovering from the ACL injury last year. Jake Garcia, 19 for 25, 255 yards with 2 touchdowns. Tyler Van Dyke, the other quarterback, he looked a little bit more rocky than Garcia did. For Garcia, for a freshman coming in, I don't know, he just leapt off the tape. And we've kind of talked about this. It's kind of been a running theme for this spring. These exciting young freshman quarterbacks, sophomore quarterbacks at some of these programs that are kind of stuck behind the veteran quarterbacks. That's kind of the theme of college football. Unless an injury or something happens, the coach is going to go with the veteran guy. Charleston Rambo, the transfer from Oklahoma, had a pretty big game, 7 for 74. And then Jalen Knighton looked like the best running back. Don Chaney Jr. was out of this game, but Knighton had 7 for 43. But Christian, was there a player that has stood out for you this spring with Miami?
Yeah, I actually think it's Rambo. So Rambo, I always thought Rambo was very talented and just kind of underutilized at Oklahoma. And even when he was utilized, he wasn't super impressive, but I think the talent's there, and I think he has every opportunity to come in and be the kind of alpha for this team. Now, you mentioned De'Aaron King. He's going into his 72nd year in college football, so hopefully he'll be able to lead this team quite well. No, I think, I was studying their offensive line because they have 2 that are going to be draft eligible last week, and I mean they're set up to be extremely successful. And if De'Aaron King, he kind of popped off the screen a few times where like he can make some throws under pressure. It was a little surprising to me. Obviously, like, he's a very athletic kid. I'd love to see Jake Garcia in there though, because I think, like we said, that is the future. De'Aaron King, he might be a good college quarterback, but that's not really what I want to see, I guess. So he's not going to be anything in the NFL. So Jay Garcia is kind of the guy that I would want. And then Rambo, I would probably take a shot on drafting him in C2C because I think he's going to be ultra productive this year.
Yeah, I love Jay Garcia. He's a California kid. Then he went to Georgia, tried to play football over there when COVID hit. The only thing that gives me pause about Garcia is that if King does come back, he's obviously not going to play this year. And then next year they have Ja'Cory Brown, who is basically the 4th-rated dual quarterback coming into Miami. And can Garcia beat him out? Maybe, but it's going to be close. It depends on kind of how that. So that's the only thing that kind of with Garcia worries me. If Brown comes in, he's that big guy. He's a higher recruit. Could he take his spot? And I've always been a Knighton stan. I've always kind of been the Knighton guy, not the Chaney guy. But as for C2C, I think Devy, I don't know, because of the way that the NFL's looked at these profile guys. He's 190, right? Like, I think 190-ish. That worries me. I like fat running backs, and I don't necessarily know. I like Knighton as an athlete and what he's done, but what the NFL did, Knighton doesn't fit that. Chaney fits that more. So I think that really worries me. Or, hey, and a guy that I mentioned earlier was Cody Brown, a kid I really like. He was going to go to Tennessee, transfer to Miami. He wasn't in the game, but that's a kid to keep an eye on. He's a big guy. He's a big back there. But and you're right about Rambo. That dude's going to eat this year. I have a feeling he's going to be one of those guys that kind of climbs up the board a little bit. So that's good. Now, I actually watched Florida State, and they're kind of in Mike Norvell's second year. So we were looking at where's Florida State going to be. Jordan Travis is there. They have Mackenzie Milton, transfers from UCF. Lawrence Toffoli was there. All these different guys are here. Now, nothing really stood out to me about these games. I do think that Mackenzie Milton's going to start for them, though. So I do think if his knee is healthy, which it was a nasty knee injury, but I don't even know how he kept his leg, but he did, and he's there. He looks pretty good in the spring game. I think that he's a very good value right now in C2C leagues. I don't think he's a Devy asset. I don't know. I just don't think that injury that he's going to really get looked at. But at C2C, I like Milton. You can get him in the late 30s, early to late 30s, depending on who's in your draft. I like that. The guy that I think that could have like a Javonte Williams kind of rise is running back Joshua Corbin. He went to Texas A&M. He came to Florida State. I think that we could talk about him. He had to get used to that offense. Second half of the year, we see Mike Norvell, what he's done in Memphis with all those running backs. If Corbin can step in there, it's pretty good. And then they're talented. They got DJ Williams, Treshawn Ward. So they got a lot of different guys in there that they can really step up. And the receivers are young. So I think the one area that you're going to see is the receivers. You look at they have Malik McClain. He's okay. Joshua Burrow is okay. The guy that I love that is not on campus yet is Destin Hill. And he's getting a lot of love right now in Devy communities as being kind of the wide receiver one I saw on someone's list today. So I think that Florida State's kind of in a flux right now, but that offensive line is awful. So that's the other issue. When you talk about Corbin, he could have that rise, but that offensive line is bad. What do you think of Milton, Jeff?
He's the veteran. So, and I took both of these backs. I took Cornell and I took Tuafili in the C2C draft that we're in that will never end. So I'm invested in both of these guys. And, I think you touch on them and we talk about Miami with that backfield as well, potentially being the North Carolina this year with the Michael Carter and Javonte Williams, Thunder Lightning. And Florida State's just missing their guys. And so it's just weird to me. I'm old enough. I'm of a certain age that you see guys in Florida State uniform or see guys in Miami uniform, and you almost think that they're better than what they really are. Sometimes just, from the childhood seeing these teams. And so Florida State, they're really just desperately trying to build up those big guys, as you mentioned. Johnson, the defensive end, Christian, I don't know if he's on your radar yet, but he certainly lit up the first quarter of the spring game. Then they looked like they pulled him out. So I don't know where he's landing on NFL draft boards yet, if he's the guy to keep an eye on. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on this team.
Yeah, ultimately, I know you guys – I think we had a conversation about Jeff, you like Florida State a little less, right, than Kevin.
Yes.
I think I lean more your side because I think, to Kevin's point, having such a bad offensive line, I think then you're running the risk of, okay, Mackenzie Milton coming off one of the worst injuries I've seen in college football in a long time. Are you throwing him back there to get his ass kicked? I don't know. And then if you're not rolling Milton out there, I think you're actually getting worse because I think he is the best option at quarterback. Outside of that, the guys are on my radar. These aren't guys that I'm really targeting in Devy specifically. Destin Hill, maybe once he is there and on campus. But other than that, this isn't a team that gets the juices flowing, if you know what I mean.
No, that's fair. I think, don't forget about Chuba Purdy. He's there too right now. He got injured and now he's coming back from that injury. So I think that they're in rebuild mode a little bit down there, and they're going to be in there. That's why I think they are going to lean heavy running, though. I think they will if that offensive line can get fixed. So that's why you could see Corbin go there. But I'm not picking them to win the ACC or anything. Let's not get crazy here. I don't think that they're going to be doing those type of things. But it feels like every year, Jeff, we talk about Miami being back and then Florida State being back. Remember the turnover chain? That was all the rage. Yes. Everybody's going crazy now. Everybody's got shit. Are these programs ever? I mean, Florida State won a national title recently. I mean, Jameis Winston was pretty close, but we're probably never going to see what we saw the early 2000s, late 90s, right? I mean, I was only like 10, but I know you were around, so I figured you would have best experience of this.
I have vivid memories of both of these teams dominating college football. The biggest thing, they're just getting crushed in recruiting. Nick Saban is walking through Miami-Dade and picking up anybody he wants. You know, we talk about Calvin Ridley. I think Julio Jones might have even been from that area too. But these are guys there are guys all over Alabama's roster that they would be Miami guys, and it wouldn't even be second thought about it for 20, 30 years of college football. And now that Miami's just in the they're an afterthought. And so I think it's so difficult right now, and especially what is running over at Clemson. It's just so hard for somebody to build programs up in some of these other areas. Georgia's got the recruiting fired up finally under Kirby Smart. We've talked about for years if Georgia ever got it figured out and they started locking guys down. Will Muschamp at Florida is not Will Muschamp anymore. Dan Mullen at Florida is well ahead of both of these programs, I believe. Norvell just was a mess when he took over, and they're still trying to figure what's going out there. So I don't know. It's just there's just too many other – Ohio State, again, another team that's just pulling guys that they want. So are they back? They're not going to be back anytime soon.
All right. Well, I mean, that's fair. I think that's true. You couldn't just leave out Ohio State one time, could you? You had to put him in there and go there. All right. No, I think, as far as the reactions goes to the spring games, I think we kind of understand that. Now, what we are going to talk about is our top 5 2022 tight end ranking. So this is kind of what we've been going. We went through quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and now we're at tight ends. I think consensus as a group, these tight ends are they're
all over the place.
Yeah, we're all over. Yeah, there's no consensus. I don't know why I put that. I think our first guy's consensus, I would say close to consensus. And that's Jaylen Weidemeyer from Texas A&M. And I will throw on his tape and we can watch him a little bit. Jeff, what do you see in Weidemeyer?
Size, he's big. He's not as athletic as you'd like to see. I think that you watched him running around in that Texas A&M uniform, and it kind of gives you some visions of Martellus Bennett at the same school, if you're old enough to remember that. But he's just not – I don't know. You compare him to Kyle Pitts, and it's just not there. It's the number one tight end. Yeah. And I think that's some of what we talk about with Kyle Pitts is some of the guys that are looking towards the future, why to grab him now. It's just there's not a guy like that coming.
I like his strength. I like his red zone kind of mismatch, what he can do. He has some weird yak ability. Like, it's weird. Like, he's not fast, but he does find a way. And I'm rooting for him too, because people don't realize he was a 3-star Baylor. He wasn't even supposed to really play. He was the 3rd recruit, and then the 2 guys in front of him got hurt. So he ended up becoming like the guy there in Texas A&M. Cup was hurt, and these other guys that got hurt. So he's definitely moved his way up. And, he has good hands, I think. He holds on the ball well in traffic. He does a lot of okay things. But when you're looking at it in terms of, like, where you're going to draft this guy, what is the earliest you would think, Christian? 2nd round, maybe?
Man.
Rookie drafts?
Yeah. That's probably what you're looking at, because I don't think he creates really – the same mismatch. I even think, like, we brought up Kyle Pitts. Like, how does he compare for you guys to Freiermuth? Because I think Freiermuth is a better prospect than Weidemeyer.
I think so too. I know Kevin's a little bit down on Freiermuth, but I think he is too. He's just a better receiver.
Yeah. And to Weidemeyer's credit, I do think he's got like some intriguing hands, and he's pretty fluid when he's running his routes. Like, I popped on one game and I was like, okay, I don't really get it. And then I popped on another. I was like, okay, I'm warming up to this kid. And then the 3rd game I put on, I was like, okay, this makes sense now. Like we said, not a super exciting class. I don't know that he's going to finish as my tight end 1, which we'll get to talk about the guy that I like, but probably not on this list. So.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I like him too. I wrote about him last year. But I think that when we talk about these guys, I think Freiermuth is going to be good, though. Like, I don't like – they're probably pretty close, right? I know Austin was talking about that. Devy Dietz was talking about those guys. And it's pretty good there. Jeff, who is your number 2?
My number 2 is Jaleel Billingsley, and I don't know that he's going to be a NFL tight end, but the explosiveness – he's returning kicks for the national champion, is just an intriguing package. He's just so small. It's like he's like 6'2", like 229. So I don't really know what his role at the next level would be. If somebody's creative enough and use him as a mismatch, it's going to be interesting to see what Alabama does, because they kind of, in their spring game, they lean towards more 2 tight end sets. Cameron Latu was the other guy that they were playing. So that's my number 2, but I'm sure you guys have a different number 2.
Christian, who's your number 2 or around there?
My 2 is Trey McBride, but that's the guy that I think could overtake Weidemeyer. I tweeted about him today. Colorado State, a lot of people got onto that tweet. So shout out to Colorado State. You're great. You're the secondary CSU though, because I went to Cleveland State. But yeah, Trey McBride is mine too.
Man, taking a shot at Colorado State, even though they're giving you some love there. Now, I like McBride. He's a interesting guy. He's 6'4", 260. He's a massive, massive target. I want to give a shout out, and we had the film for him because that's how it works. If I do it, I get to talk about him. So mine is Cade Otten. I love this guy, and I know I got a lot of crap for it. He is older, as we talked about. He's 6'5", 240. He's a redshirt junior, so he came back to school. I think that he's a great blocker. He actually spent 2 years just learning how to block. That's what they basically said. And he's like, hey, I had to learn how to basically play tight end, because where he was at in Washington, he basically was a coach's kid. He just played wide receiver, and then they moved him to tight end at Washington. He's got great hands. I love he's consistent. Okay, he's open most of the time. He has great intangibles. He finds open zones. He lacks athleticism, so he's not like this crazy yards after catch guy, but he's going to find the open zone. He's going to fill it. Like, he's a very solid piece. Like, he's a late second, third right now to me, rookie draft wise. I don't think he's amazing, but he's going to probably be the top target guy over there in Washington. Based on all these guys leaving and kind of where they are, they're going to target him a lot. So in C2C leagues, I actually like Cade Otten a lot. But I needed to give a shout out to him because I like his game. I don't know if Jeff had him on his list. Did you have him on your list?
He was my number 6, I think.
Okay.
He's like right there on the edge.
Yeah.
Because I swung for the fences on number 5.
Okay.
He's my 3, just so you know, Kevin. So I'm right there with you.
Okay. No, I mean, that's fair. I think he's around there. Right? But again, a lot of these guys are really interchangeable. Even Weidemeyer. Like, there's arguments where you could say McBride is there, whoever. Jeff, who's around your 3-ish?
Shout out Jeremy Ruckert. Let's go, Buckeyes.
Yes.
I'm taking my guy. We've seen him make some spectacular catches. He's not utilized in the passing game, and so that gives you some concern on how he goes to the next level. Ohio State hasn't produced tight ends, so that gives you a little bit of concern on the next level as well. But I think I've seen enough from watching on the Buckeyes games that I think he's a very underrated pass receiver. I know I saw Christian tweeted somebody that he needed to do a lot of work. We're not going to see it in games, I don't believe, not with that receiving core we talked about last week. But he's my guy, but I'd love to hear your guys' number 3.
Well, hold on. You're supposed to be making these arguments for your guy. Everything that you just said was like, well, he doesn't do this, but is it just that he wears, the colors of the Ohio State? Is that?
I said at the very beginning, we have seen him make some spectacular catches in big moments in big games.
Okay.
We saw in the Alabama game last year. We saw in the Wisconsin Big Ten game the year before. He's able to work vertically in the seam and make some good catches. So that's one.
Really quick about Rucker. I don't know where you have him, Kevin, but this is a guy that the NFL is going to like more than fantasy players. Yeah. It's the Tommy Tremble. Rucker, you could have made an argument that he was the best blocking tight end in the 2021 class. So I only assume that he's definitely going to be the best blocking tight end in the next class. So I think he'll get drafted with day 2 capital, and then people are going to overdraft him probably. So
I think one of my first Devy articles I wrote on tight ends, I said, man, when I was trying to find highlights for Rucker, it was like 45 seconds just game film. That was it. That's all I could find. Like, there was nothing before this year. I like him, but again, like you said, like, I don't know. Like, I think he'll be okay, but until he starts producing, but I don't think he will this year. Are they going to throw the ball to Rucker or all their 17 5-star wide receivers? Like, it's just not gonna happen there. Christian, you said your 3rd was kind of Cade Otten around that area.
Yeah. Otten is right now my 3rd, and then we already talked about my 4, which is Billingsley. So I don't know who's next on your list. Is it let me guess. Is it Is it Cole Turner? Because it should be.
It's not Cole Turner yet, but it's around there. It's
Is he a tight end?
Shut up.
Not sure
I
yet.
don't be hearing that. I don't want to hear that anymore. Yes, he's a tight end. All right. He gained like 50 pounds to play tight end. No, mine is Charlie Collar, whatever, however you say it. I'm messing this up all the time. Okay. So from Iowa State. And the thing about him is I think he's just a very solid prospect. I was really surprised he didn't come out this year. I really thought he would. I don't necessarily know why he went back to school. But, when you're watching him, he creates mismatches. He has really good hands. So the thing about Charlie is he has great hands. He made Brock Purdy look good, which is a testament to himself. Like anytime Purdy was in trouble, he definitely got him the ball. He can hold on the ball. Now, the things that I think that he struggles with is he's a lack of athleticism and speed. And blocking needs improvement. Like he's not gonna be an inline blocker. He's not very good in that aspect. So he's a pretty capable route runner. So I kind of have him just in general, kind of around that 3-4 range, and then Cole Turner is my fourth.
Okay, I don't hate it. Jeff, you have Kohler in your top 5, right?
He's number 4 for me too. So
yeah, I'm a hater.
Why are we talking? Well, I mean, what don't you like about him?
I'm not really a hater. I actually, as much as we don't have the top end talent in this class, I like this class for what it is. You have a lot of good pass catching tight ends, like you mentioned. In my grading system, I do factor in blocking, and he just can't do it. He's very, very bad at it. But this is fantasy football, right? That stuff doesn't matter. It might matter to teams, and that's where, like I talked about with Rucker, the draft capital might come in, but that's the only thing really that's knocking him down. That plus, is he going to be a big slot type of player because he can't block? How is he going to make his way onto a field? Of course, in C2C, he's going to give you the production this year for sure, without a doubt. After that, I'm a little nervous for his outlook.
Yeah.
So.
No, I mean, that's fair. He's okay. None of these guys really excite me. No one's but besides Cole Turner, that's my dude too. But I just like his kind of his profile there. Who's around yours, Jeff? About 4 or 5-ish.
So my number 5, we've talked about my first 4. My number 5 is the most ridiculous pick that you can possibly make, but I took Baylor Cup. So Baylor Cup was the number 1 tight end in the class coming out 2 years ago. He has not played a down of college football to my knowledge. He has been injured nonstop. He just strikes me as we talk about reasons why we don't like the rest of this class. And, it goes back to the old, I could have a boat or I could have a mystery box. And Baylor Cup is a mystery box because if he's on the field, would it be shocking if he were to splash and, kind of edge out even Weidemeyer in terms of being the top tight end for Texas A&M. And all of a sudden we're sitting a year from now saying, oh my God, this guy finally put it together. He's the top tight end in the class, or he could just be absolutely nothing at all. So, it's fun for discussion. If I didn't put him at 5, we probably wouldn't have talked about him at all, but let's roll the dice. Let's pick the mystery box every once in a while.
It's fun. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I just he's got to stay on the field, but he's got to be healthy. I mean, he's literally. Does he have a snap yet? I don't think he has one snap, right?
That was probably a terrible selection.
Yeah, I think he's gotten hurt in spring game both times or something like that. I mean, but he has talent. He's a massive dude.
There's stories that he's have a great spring. The coaches say he's ready to go. He's having a great spring. And do coaches ever lie? I mean,
never heard a coach speak.
People still talk about, but I will say if Cup is there, Weidemeyer is there healthy, and DeMond is there, they have Spiller, all those guys, if Haynes King is anything, that's freaking sneaky team right there. We've talked about it enough, but that team has legitimate championship contention there.
I think we need to start a letter writing campaign to our Lord and Savior Carson Strong and to get him to transfer down to Texas A&M, because I think they could be taking the SEC West if he were able to do that. But I'm sure he's very comfortable in Nevada and waiting to go to the NFL. But just Carson Strong, if you're watching, if family and friends of Carson Strong are watching, we can't urge you enough that Texas A&M is set and primed for you to just walk in there, use the transfer rule, and just go win a natty, man. Burrow, do the Burrow. Win a Heisman, win a natty, go number 1 overall. Just do it, man.
Go win a natty. All right. Christian, where are you at around here? I don't even know where we're on now, guys. If you're listening to this, I think we're on 4, 5, 6, 7, 10.
Yeah, 5. So it's a guy that we haven't – I don't know if you have the film for him. We talked about Cole Turner. We're just talking about Carson Strong. It might be a decent transition over. But Cole Turner is my 5. I don't like this. I love when it switches back over. Oh, we do have the film. This is good news.
Yes, we do.
Cole Turner – listen, I think he's both a Devy and a C2C asset. Dude is he makes impressive catches. If you're watching right now, you saw that one right there. He is also a little more versatile. So like we talk about Kohler and what his blocking ability looks like. I think I would, they're about on the same level, but I think Cole Turner has better hands, and that's why I have him up a little bit. I think he's a little more physical than guys like Kohler and, maybe even Otten, but probably not. He's just a guy, he's going to be Carson Strong's probably 2, because I think Dowds is probably the 1 still there. So I think it's definitely an intriguing pick. And I think this is another guy that could get some decent capital. That's the thing with this class. It's going to be a lot of round 2 and 3 guys, but imagine if Cole Turner is drafted in round 3 to a team that needs a tight end, then you have an NFL tight end too. So,
yeah, no, I've talked about Cole Turner last year when I read the story about how he gained 40 pounds and basically said, I'm not going to be a wide receiver anymore. And he's 6'6", 240, guys. I mean, if you're looking at profile and athletic profile, and he's quick because he's got that wide receiver kind of frame and that ability and his ability to catch. I think also the red zone, he's the target for Strong in the red zone. You saw his red zone catches, his ability to go up, get the ball. The only 2 things that I don't like, he's still learning the position, like we said. He basically has played 1 year tight end-ish, whatever, hybrid type thing. And in blocking, like you mentioned, like, hey, he might not just be a blocker. Like, that's just might not be something that he does. But he can learn. He's big. He's got a big frame, too. He's not small. He's undersized. Jeff didn't have him because he's a hater. But what do you think of Turner?
Yeah, kind of reminds me of Kylan Granson from this past class as, mobile. He's a move tight end. So he should be right there. I don't know. Like, all these guys are just kind of – sometimes it's fun to talk about mystery boxes, Kevin, and that's what I do.
Okay. Well, I did put up Greg Dulcich from UCLA. He was my 5. I just want to mention real quick. You don't have to watch the film. But, he's an interesting – I think he's a mystery box guy too. He did okay last year in UCLA's offense. He was a big threat, vertical threat. He averaged just under, I think it was 20 yards a catch. He's undersized, though. He's 6'4", 242. I don't know if I like that as much. He's got good hands. But, yeah, I mean, what I said today when I released my top 5, I said this is going to be the most volatile position in the class. Like, these guys are going to be interchangeable. I mean, if Jeff's mystery box balls out this year, we could be talking about Cup as being the tight end 1, and then Weidemeyer get behind him after even the production that we've seen. And I'm a little shook also because I picked Brevin Jordan as my tight end 2 going into the draft, and he got drafted. I think he's still waiting to get drafed. I think he's out there. He's by his phone, just wondering if he's going to get the call. So again, I might just not know what the hell I'm talking about when it comes to tight end. So that's it there. Anybody else you guys want to give an honorable mention or shout out to?
Not in next year's class.
I'll just say one guy that I think could declare, and it's that Miami. We just talked about Brevin. There are some people saying that Will Mallory is a better tight end than Brevin. Now, for what tight ends actually do in the NFL, they might be right. I studied him a little bit. He definitely is a more downfield player than Brevin was, and I think maybe that's why Brevin started to fall. And maybe Mallory won't, but I also don't think that anything pops off tape. We'll see, I guess, in that offense. I think, we just talked about them. They could have a sneaky good offense. They've got a good offensive line. So we'll see. If they toss him into the Brevin Jordan role, though, then I think he's in trouble. I think he's probably a day 3 pick. So,
yeah, when I watched Mallory's tape, I was like, he's okay, but he could, what you're talking about. But if they put him in that role, he's not gonna succeed there. Yeah. All right, well, we're going to run over to the Sportsbook Rundown. So we are going to be talking about, I guess, the NBA again, because this is an NBA/Devy/football show, thanks to Jeff. But, Jeff, why don't you break it down for us?
Absolutely. So this show is broken up into 3 different games. The winner of each game is awarded a poker chip. Whoever finishes the show with the most chips receives the turnover chain of immunity, and that while the losers must grab from the McDonald's Happy Meal box of death, we've been really trying to get a sponsorship with McDonald's, and I saw a meme that they had just posted that if you work at McDonald's for 6 months, you can get an iPhone. So I don't know that they're going to splash us with any money. So maybe maybe we need to touch into some SEC roots and look for different avenues if McDonald's isn't interested. But anyways, so miss the pick, and we are going to hit the bucket of death and get some punishments. As you saw earlier in the show, I finally paid some things off, and Christian's going to take us through the Sportsbook Rundown as he won last week. So he is holding the first chip.
Yeah, that's exciting. So yeah, like Kevin and Jeff said, we're doing NBA games. I do want to. Okay, yeah, we're good. I felt like the Celtics game was on here. I'm pretty sure that one's over already. But first game, Lakers at Suns, game 2. Kevin, who are you picking for this game?
I'm going Lakers. They can't lose another game. I hope they go 1-1. We'll try it. But God, LeBron, stop. I know Christian loves LeBron, but you got to stop flopping, man. Like, you got to stop pretending like you're dead every time you get touched.
It's like to a new level this year too. I know he's always done it, but I don't understand when Chris Paul pulled his arm down and then he acted like he was dead. I feel you. Jeff, who you picking?
Lakers. I'm not going alone against LeBron.
Yeah, I'm also picking the Lakers. Again, it's LeBron. I don't think he's ever lost game 1 and then lost game 2 as well. I don't think he's ever been down 0-2 in the first round of the playoffs. I think I saw a stat.
First round of the playoffs, maybe, because I know that he's been swept or near swept before. So.
Yeah. But I think in the first round, he always bounces back, wins game 2. I think it happens. Next game, Mavericks at Clippers, game 2. Kevin, who you picking?
I'm going to go Clippers. I don't think they can. I think it's going to be very close, but I'm going to go Clippers.
Okay.
This is my favorite series, I think, of the first round. Outside of we're going to talk about the other team up and coming, but I'll take the Clippers.
Okay. Wow. So I did a little prep work, and I put my picks in before so that I wouldn't feel swayed when you guys did, and I picked the Mavericks. So I'm rolling with the Mavs again. Luka's going to go off. I hope, because that's my pick. All right, third game, Wizards at 76ers, game 2. Kevin, who you picking?
Sixers.
Okay.
Sixers, make it a sweep.
Yeah, Sixers for me as well. Next game, Hawks at Knicks. Trae Young just went off and then said it's quiet as F in here, and that was awesome. Big Trae Young guy. Kevin, who you picking?
I'm going Knicks. They're gonna shut Trae Young up to the team.
Fighting Trae Youngs. Let's go, Hawks.
Yeah, I'm picking the Knicks, but I do want to tell a really quick fun story. I got just absolutely annihilated on Twitter. Shocking, I know. Last year, because I said that the Hawks were going to make the playoffs, right? They had a nice, solid young core, and then they sucked. They were really bad last year. They had Lou Will. They're in the playoffs this year. One of my buddies texted me. He's like, yeah, you should have just held that one back for a year. I said, yeah, that's okay. That's what Twitter's for, right? All right. Next game, Grizzlies at Jazz. Kevin, who you picking?
I picked the Grizzlies in the first game, but I'm going to go Utah in this game.
Fighting John Morant. I'm going to take the Grizzlies.
Yeah, and I'm going to roll with the Jazz here. And then last game on the docket, Nuggets at Blazers. Jokic went absurd in the first game, and it was fun to watch. Kevin, who you picking?
Dame time. I'm going Portland.
You really think I'm going to pick against my Portland Trail Blazers? Absolutely not. I'm taking the Blazers all the way.
Well, I am the odd one out here. I am taking the Nuggets again because I think they're very, very good. So that's it. We'll see who wins. I'm glad I won last week. I think, didn't I get all of them right last week somehow?
You did get all of them right. There were only 3, I think, that we did because I kind of forgot how the play-in games worked. We probably would have picked more had we not. Because this is, as you can tell, we are NBA experts, and we would have picked more. But yeah.
All right. All right. Well, we're moving on to our next game, which is prospect poker, something that we do know a little bit more about. And what we are going to be looking at for prospect poker, the rules of the game are simple. We are just tossing 3 cards in the river. Each holds 2 before we reveal a card. We're going to talk about players we think are basically overvalued and undervalued Devy assets. So some guys that I think are getting undervalued, and these guys are, and then overvalued, and we'll go there. So we're going to start with Christian first. Who is your undervalued asset, Christian?
Well, and we've already talked about him on this show, and we'll talk about him pretty much every show for the rest of eternity.
Every damn show.
It's Carson Strong. So right now his ADP in Devy leagues is sitting in the 60s, which you might think, that's a pretty good spot for a small school quarterback. It's not. Carson Strong is going to be a first-round NFL draft pick in what I think is a pretty weak quarterback class. Now, of course, my judgment might be a little clouded because we just had one of the better ones I've ever seen in 2021, but Carson Strong is going to put himself in the conversation for the top overall pick in 2022. And so when you're thinking about where he's being drafted, other than the leagues that I'm in, because I'm reaching for him, I don't care. I don't want to lose out on having Carson Strong. The kid is just good. He's good under pressure. He's good at throwing deep. Now, of course, there are areas that he could improve, but that's common with a guy who's only started 2 years. You think about a guy like Zach Wilson, and I'm not comparing the two, but the meteoric rise to being drafted ahead of Justin Fields, which was absurd. With Carson Strong, I could see that happening. He could be drafted over Howell or Rattler, and you can get him in the 6th, 7th round. I'm scooping him up everywhere. So.
All right, so we flipped out. Actually, kind of an interesting toss. We have a 10 of diamonds, we have a 6 of diamonds, and we have a 4 of diamonds. And Christian's flip is an 8 of diamonds because, of course, it is because Christian always wins. And so my turn. So my guy that I'm going to talk about is Clemson wide receiver Aju, 6'4", 220 pounds. He's a big wide receiver. Exactly. He's falling outside of – I've seen him outside of the top 100 in most ADP that I've seen. Yeah. The wide receiver target room is completely wide open with Clemson, with Cornell Powell, with Amari Rodgers leaving. We've talked about DJ Uiagalelei as being perhaps the top Devy quarterback. All eyes are going to be on Clemson, and it's kind of whoever emerges is going to be wide open. And the spring, coaches have raved about him. I believe we saw a big touchdown catch in the spring game. He's just a physical, imposing wide receiver, and he's a guy that really could work his way to the very top of the upcoming draft. And so Aju is my pick, and I toss out a 5 of hearts, and I got nothing.
Yeah. All right. So I'll go with mine, but real quick about Carson Strong. One thing you guys can do in leagues right now. You guys will like this. I flipped Keaton Slovis in one of my Devy leagues for Carson Strong plus a first-round pick, which is a Devy depleted pick, which in turn turned into basically I got Javonte Williams because he was in that draft class. So I was able to flip Keaton Slovis into Carson Strong and Javonte Williams in a Devy league. That's what you should be doing right now. With Carson Strong is that because people still think Keaton Slovis is a very top prospect, and that's what's happening right now. Okay, so just a heads up out there for everybody out there. As far as my undervalued guy, and it's someone that I've kind of been on for a while now. It's Austin Jones from Stanford. A lot of people last year kind of left him for dead because of E.J. Smith, Emmitt Smith's kid who went to Stanford. They thought he was going to be the guy. Austin Jones has a pretty good profile. He's one of the best high school running backs out of California that we saw. He was a monster in high school. He scores touchdowns. He's a very good runner. He's a solid back. The only thing he doesn't have is speed. So when you're watching his tape, the one thing you're going to see is he doesn't have that. But right now, his ADP is almost in the 10th round, basically 10th, 11th round. So if you're in a C2C league, I think he's valuable because I think he's going to get a ton of carries. They like to rely on their veteran backs. He's a guy that stepped up last year, had multiple touchdowns in games. He actually tied a CMC record for most touchdowns in a row for multiple touchdowns in a game. So when you think about what he's able to produce, the college side is good. And then he does have some outside shot in a running back class that's kind of it's okay, but it's there. He's going to have value there maybe if he comes out. So I think it's Austin Jones. I think the running back from Stanford is a guy that you should take a look at.
So Kevin's flip Queen of Hearts. So Kevin has the high card. Christian is waiting on another diamond.
Don't give him a diamond. Come on, guys.
I need a diamond here. All right. I'll go right into my guy who I think is being overvalued in Devy leagues, and that is Jahan Dotson, the Penn State wide receiver. This is a guy, his ADP is right in the 70s. I've seen him ranked in top 100 lists all over the place. But it's a guy that he's living off of highlight catches and special teams work, in my opinion. I don't think that Jahan Dotson is a good separator. And when you're that small, he's not like when you watch him play, he doesn't play small. But when you're not a bigger physical receiver, I expect that you'll be able to create some separation. You don't really see that a ton with Dotson. And I think he has pretty average hands, a lot of body catches. This isn't a guy that I project well to the NFL. And so as a C2C asset, he might be nice. You know, he might be good for this year. You assume that he'll declare after this year. As a Devy asset, though, I don't think that I want any part of him. So I think drafting him anywhere near the 6th, 7th, 8th round is a little crazy. I have no shares. I don't plan to have shares. Dotson, overvalued.
All right, Christian's flip.
Dang it.
6. So Christian's flip
paired
is sitting on a pair of 6s. So my guy is Ole Miss running back Jaylen Ely. Jaylen Ely is teeny tiny. He's 5'8", 190 pounds. So to be clear, he is absolutely going to smash this year. And so if you're playing in a C2C format, he's going to smash for you. Even if you have him as a Devy asset, he's going to smash. The problem is when we get into the draft process, kind of strikes me as next year's Kenny Gainwell right now, where I think maybe the analytical warriors are going to absolutely love him, and even maybe some of the tape guys. But I am very, very scarred over what we saw last month with undersized running backs in the draft, where NFL teams treated them. He's a very role-specific player at the next level, and I'm skeptical that you'll really get enough volume to return much value outside of him being a Tariq Cohen role that might be a PPR play occasionally. But he is my guy, and I'm going to flip, and I'm going to get a 7 of spades. Ooh. And I almost got a straight, but I did not get a straight, and I got nothing.
So there's a question for both of you guys really quick about Ely. I drafted Travion Henderson in a C2C league with the 110 and a guy in the league. It was a mock draft. He said that was a reach and that he can't believe I drafted him that high. And then he drafted Ely at the end of the 2nd or beginning of the 3rd, somewhere around there. And I didn't say anything because I really didn't want to be that guy. But that's more of a reach to me than it is for Henderson, even in C2C, right? Or am I crazy?
You know, one is the #1 running back recruit in the nation coming into a big school that you could potentially run away with the role, and the other guy is a teeny tiny. So.
Yeah. Well, and 2, when you draft Jerry and Ely, you get 1 more year of production probably, and so that's like drafting Tom Brady in the 1st round of a dynasty startup to me. So.
No, that's fair, right? Like, but I just thought that was hilarious that he said my pick was terrible, and then I reached when I grabbed the #1 running back in the country, and he grabbed Jaylen Ely, who, hey, you know what? Good for you, man. All right. Anyway, sorry. If you're listening to this, you don't follow me anyway, so you're not listening to this. All right, no, my guy here is Justin Ross, and I like Ross, so I don't want anybody to come after me here. He's 6'4", 205. He's a junior. He's still getting drafted like middle of the 3rd. I saw him go at the end of the 2nd of a mock draft that I saw. I think that we're still drafting him based on 2 years ago prior to his injury. So he had a spinal cord injury or his neck injury that he had to have. He had to have fusion surgery. And there's a lot of talk about him not even getting cleared, maybe if he's going to get cleared. Stop drafting this guy so high. Like I drafted him last year, like the 12th round or something like that. But he's getting drafted the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round. And I'm getting very worried about that just because I feel like his value is way too high right now because I don't even know if he's going to play football again. I don't know about that. So I think Ross is a guy I'm staying away from until I know that he can get on that field and take a hit.
Take Aju instead. Kevin's flip. 6
of
yes, cards.
Baby, let's go.
Kevin wins. Kevin
right.
and Christian both had a pair of 6s, and Kevin wins with the high card.
Good job, Kevin.
All right, I'll take it.
So we're tied 1-1 again. This is the same situation.
We are tied 1-1 again, and I'm just kind of hoping to play spoiler on our next game. So our next game, we are playing Blackjack Trivia. And the way Blackjack Trivia works, we throw out blackjack. We see if we need to hit. If you hit, we get a trivia question. If you get it right, you either add or subtract whatever the best outcome to your score is. If you get it wrong, you get the worst outcome to your score. So we will bring this up here.
I would like to request Jeff's first question. I would like to ask Jeff his first question.
Okay, well, maybe I'll just get blackjack right away. So Christian starts with a 4 of hearts and a 9 of diamonds. So he's sitting on a 13. Is this me or Kevin? I think
Kevin.
It's Kevin. So Kevin's got an 8 of diamonds and a 7 of diamonds. So he's got 15. I've got a king of spades.
Well, I'm saving my question for next week. So we can't even tie you, right? So,
I mean, but you flip up blackjack. I mean, you kind of win, don't you? I guess it's not exactly blackjack. So, yeah, we're kind of running low on time, so I won. Which means that we split the games, and Christian retains the championship.
Whoa.
Kevin has it.
Easy now there, Jeff.
Oh, Kevin retains the championship. Okay.
This close.
Right.
Come on, don't be giving away. I don't win very
You
much.
got it. You
I
got
don't
it.
win very much.
So now I have to pick out of the freaking.
Well,
thing.
we are going to let's pick out of here. Let's see what we got, because let's see if I start stacking up punishments again.
Give me the Lakers.
Come all around. So we got Christian's got the Wizards. Sorry, bud.
Yeah.
Maybe this will be the first time you lose there, Christian.
Christian needs a punishment.
I do. I want one. Bring it on.
Bring it on. And I got Clippers. That's a fun one. So I'm sure that they will lose by a point. So if you're a gambler out there, make sure to put a little bit of money on the Mavericks beating the Clippers by a point, because that's how it will happen. But Kevin, you are the retaining champion, and you have a little bit of FaceTime. Feel free, my friend.
Of course, I gotta take free time when I can. I being the degenerate that I am, I was looking at I've been diving into the 2022 class for my recruiting stuff for some leagues I'm in and some other stuff. There's a kid that you guys all need to look out for. His name is some of you guys probably know, Gavin Wimsatt. He's going to Rutgers. He's going to be a stud quarterback. He's a dual threat quarterback right now. He's the number 3 dual threat quarterback. Rutgers is slowly building some stuff down there or up there, wherever the hell they are. I don't know. But in that conference, they're really building that program. But Gavin Wimsatt is a guy. Everybody's going to talk about Quinn Ewers and all these different guys. But Gavin Wimsatt, remember that name. Go look at his tape. I really like this kid from Rutgers. He could be a lot of fun to watch the next few years.
Yeah, I saw that I don't know the name, but like the offensive tackle that they just got committed the other day was the number 1 highest rated recruit in New Jersey to ever commit to Rutgers. So Greg Schiano's building something, and the Buckeyes will be beating them by 50 instead of 70 here in the next couple of years. So
that's true.
That's pretty valuable. Yeah.
Kevin, what you got? Anything to say?
No, I mean, that's fine. Next week we are on June 1st. We'll be on at 9:30 like always until Jeff big times us gets another pod sometime. Be sure to catch us in the Going for Two family of pods. Until then, I'm Kevin Coleman at DuBois_22.
I'm Jeff Bell at For Whom J Bell Tolls.
And I'm Christian Williams at C.